Thanks so much for joining us. So a lot of questions for you guys to answer. Kathleen Rogers, I'll start out with you. You're the president of the Earth Day Network. So we've been talking about one of the most pressing issues of our time, of course, and that is climate change. COP26, as you know, you were there, ended just a few weeks ago. You were there in Glasgow to ensure that climate education moves to a core subject for school curricula worldwide. Kathleen, what is the role of educators in particular when it comes to fighting climate change?
Well, I think I would agree with all of the previous speakers that as an organization, EarthDay.org absolutely believes in education for education's sake. Having said that, however, we are, as a planet, facing both the challenges of climate change and the opportunities that inevitably come when there's a crisis. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And so our position and the position of other multilaterals, UNESCO and other organizations is that we want to give the students the opportunity, both at the K through 12 level and in universities, the opportunities to create and be part of the solution to climate. And so we are focused almost entirely in this endeavor in promoting what we call mandatory, assessed, meaning tested, climate literacy in schools. And by that we mean not just in STEM, science, math, technology, but in every component, every course that a child would take from K through 12 when they graduate and move on to universities. And we also believe that accompanying that opportunity, and interestingly, one of the themes of this important conference is to unmute students. And we also believe and that's part of climate change, allowing them the opportunity to speak and become engaged. And we also believe that they can be unleashed because in any revolution, whether it's the Industrial Revolution, the tech revolution, whatever it is, you see enormous interest and opportunities that countries perceive and then follow to educate their kids so they can take advantage of these revolutions. In the United States, there was no compulsory education at all until the first ship sailed in from the British made out of iron. It scared the United States, so they created mandatory education. So too, in other revolutions, the tech revolutions, where countries began to put more and more into technology. And our goal is not just to teach the science of climate, but again, to unleash those opportunities, those entrepreneurs, those innovators, those inventors, so that they can take advantage of those solutions.
So how much progress has been made to equip educators to address these issues in their classrooms? And if not enough progress has been made, what needs to be done to actually prepare them?
Well, I think the first opportunity we have is to build political will. What we saw in Glasgow, and from a substantive position, when you're looking at fossil fuels, it was unfortunately a step backwards. We did see a lot of progress. Some countries really jumped into the conversation about educating their students and, of course, training their teachers. And lastly, of course, where are we going to get the money? It's not inexpensive to change curricula, to educate teachers, but it has to be part of political will of a country, and they have to see the opportunity. There is no reason why every country on the planet can't be making its own solar panels or inventing things. All energy is local. And what we don't want to see is a handful of countries taking advantage of the opportunity that climate change presents and owning this next green revolution. It belongs to all of us. And so we have to educate our citizens and our children, unmute them, teach them about love and compassion for everyone else in the world who unfortunately will suffer from this crisis. Arm the teachers with the skills, and then build a united front of companies and NGOs and teachers and governments to build one solution, and it all works around education.
Okay, let's bring in Nadia Nadim. Hi, Nadia. You were raised in Denmark after you left Afghanistan as a child. Now, Denmark is known for its school system that's aimed at raising conscious citizens who will actively take part in society. I'll put it really simply. What is the purpose of education to you?
Big question. Yes, I feel I was lucky to be in a place where education is very important, and actually students get paid to attend universities monthly, which I felt was amazing. And you know, for me, the purpose of education, I feel, is very simple. It's to have the tools to solve the problems that you see or you might experience. It's almost like a power that's given to you, the power, a voice to bring the change, as I said. So, and then we do, environment is something that you talked about, is something very important in Denmark, and kids in school are being taught how to act towards it. School is important. Obviously, the upbringing you have at home is very important. But for me, the biggest factor is probably the government or the lawmakers. You know, the attitude towards the problems that you see. I think they're kind of setting the stage for the rest of us.
Right.
How you view everything and what's your attitude going to be towards it.
Okay, so Kathleen was mentioning that about the political will. Malek Jandali, hello. You are a renowned composer and pianist, humanist. You were also selected by the Carnegie Corporation of New York as a great immigrant. You're also the founder and CEO of Pianos for Peace. Tell us what you think is the purpose of education.
Salam and peace, everyone. In my humble opinion, the purpose of education is to listen. Unmute the silence. Listen to each other. Because what I see here in Doha is a symphony for peace, and we have an amazing conductor, the maestro, or the maestra, which is this amazing, wise summit. If we listen to each other, that's the first skill that we need as humans. And as a musician and as an artist, especially with the soft power, the magic of arts and music, it teaches you respect, it teaches you to listen, and it teaches you to think and read. The first ever revealed word in Quran, in the Islamic faith, is read and think. It's often mentioned to listen. The soft power of the arts, especially music, which you can't see, you can't touch, its magic, brings unity to the community. See, the word community has unity in it. But I believe music, especially music, brings people together. That's why we have amphitheaters in ancient civilizations. That we have here, you know, in Qatar, and the symphony, the major, you know, stadiums in sports. We're going to have the entire world next year here united under the soft power of sports and music. So I believe, humbly, in my personal opinion, that the arts and music in particular is the answer for having quality education for our next generation, especially the children.
Kathleen, on the issue of unity that Malek was just talking about, what role do you think schools can play in reconciling intergenerational conflicts and misunderstandings to foster efforts to create a better future?
Well, I agree that the purpose of school is to build that kind of unity.
Right.
Certainly students these days, not all, but many, are united in the fight against climate change. But they're also focused on social injustice and other issues related to building a broader, more meaningful, united global culture, which I think is critical to solving all sorts of problems, whether they're military or climate change or other cultural battles that we see constantly raging. So for us, climate change presents that opportunity to build a strong global social network.
Oh, sorry. A little bit. There you go. We can hear you better. Thank you.
And so we're hoping to build a broader social network that is built not just on the fear of climate change, but again, the opportunity, and to unite all of the resources in schools, among students, among educators, to bring together a global community that will not only be built on sharing the wealth that climate change, will bring, but also ensuring that the role of education continues to be one that focuses on all subjects. I think we see increasingly the focus on technology to build or innovate our way out of climate change, but we believe equally that the arts, sport, psychology are all part of this global solution. And it starts with education. I don't have to tell anyone here that for most countries, education is among the least funded ministries or departments of any country. And so an emphasis and a focus on creating the next generation and making it equitable. Even in my own country, you can be in a state, one state where they're spending $15,000 per student per year and another $5,000. And so again, spending equal amounts of money, as Wendy and other people said, looking at each child with enormous, unlimited potential to play a role in both national affairs and community affairs, but also these global solutions.
Yeah.
So we have deep faith in the education system and what it can become, and the evidence, I think, is right here at this conference.
And Nadia, you've in fact championed girls' rights to education. You were named a UNESCO champion for girls and women's education just a few years ago. The fact is that there are 129 million girls that are still out of school today. That is according to UNICEF. Why is education so crucial to changing the lives of girls and especially the most vulnerable ones?
Imagine this. I'm just going to explain this very simple. For of you guys, the ones who know, IKEA is like a Swedish furniture store.
Right.
Yes. If you go there and you buy a table, what you get home is a box where you have to assemble it yourself. Imagine not having the instructions. If any of you guys ever tried this, it's almost impossible. So for me,
certainly have.
yeah, and for me, it's kind of similar. You know, these girls are taking the chance to have a normal or a proper life, having a voice, having the power again. And that's extremely sad. You know, it's a human right. It should be accessible for everyone. Because that's how you control your life. That's how you can have an impact on your community. That's how.
So how does it transform then? How does girls' education in particular transform communities and countries and ultimately the entire world?
Because I said education is a tool to solve problems. I think a lot of the problems that we do face are because of ignorance. And how do you change that? Is by educating people. Let me give you an example, you know, the importance of education and why girls' education in particular is very important. Because I don't want to step anyone on their toes by saying that women do have a huge impact on their children and how they're going to view the world and how important their lives later on are going to be. My mom was the first one to, before my mom, everyone in her family was illiterate. And she, when she was 6 years old, had to hide that she had been submitted to school from her father because she was a Muslim girl and culture, tradition, and everything at that point said that she shouldn't go to school, attend school. But she wanted to. And because of her, now the entire generation and how we view on education has changed. I'm about to become a doctor. My sister's a doctor. We have 2 nurses in our family. And, and I could tell you, like, guarantee that my kids are going to be educated, So that's why I think it's very important to educate women, because they're going to push the next generation to also be educated. And then that's how you're going to have impact on the society and then eventually change the world for the better.
Malek, if you'd like to add on to anything that Nadia or Kathleen were saying, and also I know that you visited Syrian children in refugee camps. What was that experience like in the context of education? And maybe what did they teach you?
They were the best educators. When I crossed the borders, I brought them musical instruments, thinking that that's what they need to bring the happiness, the fun. And I reached their tents in the middle of nowhere, Many families were living on olive trees, and they rejected the musical instruments. They said, we need umbrellas. Went back to Turkey, exchanged all the musical instruments with umbrellas. But I listened to their needs. I listened to the children. Why do you need umbrellas? One word: dignity. When they wanted to go to the bathroom, they wanted to be covered outdoors in that tent so nobody can see them. I was crying. They taught me more than what I was planning to do to them. So they didn't need music. In my humble opinion, the purpose of education should be one word: human. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to go to our basic human values. We're all going all over the world after this amazing World Summit. Please connect. I connected to Wendy, to Kathleen. We're going to do a symphony for Earth Day. Each one of us has their own or her own thumbprint. Please, tonight, I invite you to look closely at your own thumbprint, because nobody ever in history, in mankind history, or will ever have your own thumbprint. Each one of you is so unique. But guess what? You cannot change the world. We need each other. And that's what music and the arts do. It unites. For example, at Pianos for Peace, we bring the police department. In the States, the police are shooting innocent victims in the back. So what do? We call him a peace officer rather than a police officer. We change the narrative. We go to underserved schools. In the United States, ladies and gentlemen, we have schools with no pianos. What do? Try to bridge the gap. I can't do it by myself. That's why we had Coca-Cola, the city, the mayor, the private sector. It is a symphony. You know, the word symphony in Latin comes from symphonia. It means to sing together. Not to sing by myself as a soloist. Please unite, respect and believe in your thumbprint, and be together. It is always better to be together in a symphony for peace.
So it's that collaborative effort that's so important, and we've heard this time and time again, in fact, throughout the past 3 days. Kathleen, we've spoken about the role of schools and teachers to educate our kids about the responsibility towards the planet. Is it just up to them, or is there anyone else that we should be looking at?
Well, it's I think our collective experience that community is an important element of any person's education. The parents always bring so much to the table. They have so much interest in their children becoming part of, whether it's a global economy or a musician or some other discipline, because of their own background. And so part of the role of education is to engage, obviously, teachers and students, but also to carry those messages and that hope into the community. Whether it's the United States or any other country, there are schools without heating and air conditioning in cold places, or schools without pencils and paper or books. There are extraordinary photos here that tell the story of, I was at Education for All, and they have this fabulous photo that tells a story of a destroyed area of a country where the children are leaning against a stone wall, and there's someone teaching them. And I asked them, what is this photo? And the response was, this is education. And it involved, again, not just the children and the teacher, but the community members who had such great interest in it. So for us, whether it's solving climate change or global tensions and wars or preventing them, it's critically important that you put all of these elements together and build a united society for, not just for our children, but our children's children. And while that may sound trite, that's exactly where we're going. And the reason climate change and other issues are so important is because they have the unfortunate consequence of being able to change the planet entirely. And so what we need to do is unmute our students, unmute our teachers, unmute the communities, and unleash the collective spirit. Again,
and you, in fact, say, Kathleen, that climate literacy and civic skill building will solve the climate crisis.
Yeah, there are three elements of this global campaign that people are joining. It's climate literacy, again, in every single subject. We're going to need musicians. We're going to need psychologists for the reasons we talked about today, the concern about mental health. We're going to need engineers, doctors. We're going to need everyone engaged. And so it's part of this effort to build, again, global community that will unleash those spirits, unmute the students, and collectively, I think we'll be able to do that, not just, again, for climate change's sake, but in order to build the future. And it's a future, we're going to have to reimagine everything in this room. This building is new. But over the next 50 years, everything that we do will have to be reimagined, again, from music to art to literature, social science, history, medicine.
Right.
So it's really important for us to bring all these people to the table in one united front. And for us, that includes civic skill building. If students and their parents don't have the opportunity to figure out what the science is of climate change, if they don't have access to information, if they can't challenge their governments and corporations for the things that they often do for some other reason, then we've really not completed the education of a student unless we've given them the civic skills and the opportunities for jobs, whatever those may be, art, music, medicine, of the future. So it's important to bring those elements together in order to give the kind of education that we will need for the 21st and the 22nd century.
Nadia, for anyone that might not know, you succeeded as a professional football player, and you're now dedicating yourself to healing others as a doctor. You were mentioning that just a moment ago. Looking at the current state of the world, we can certainly more anticipate that more crises will come our way, unfortunately. And just a moment ago, you were talking about your mother and her resilience. How do you think we can cultivate that type of resilience into the children of
Great question. I don't think you can actually, teach resilience. I think this is something that comes with experience, with life experience. I think what we could, or maybe should, teach our children is to have a perspective. I think that's gonna, as Malek was talking about, listening or understanding, that's gonna increase understanding among each other. Set myself in someone else's perspective allows me to understand their situation and listen to their problems. And also for your own sake, having perspective makes you appreciate life, and you would be a bit more grateful. So I'll focus more on that than the resilience. I think resilience is built through time and through your experiences. It's hard to teach resilience. I don't know. What do you think, Malek?
Yeah. Malek, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree and disagree. I truly believe, listen, look, at the end of the day, for example, if I want to represent my country, or let's say the state of Qatar, how do you represent it? At FIFA World Cup, or at the Olympics, or even here, you don't represent it by data or by the numbers of school. You represent it by two pieces of art. One is the flag of that country. Number two is the national anthem of that country. And many countries, thank you, many countries don't have even lyrics. For example, Spain, their national anthem has no lyrics, not a single word. So in my humble opinion, I truly, and I cannot emphasize enough, especially in the Arab world, how important the arts and the music in particular has that. It's our duty to bring the arts and the music, as we talked with Kathleen, to the classrooms. It's often ignored. It's like always viewed as entertainment. It is the essence of education because it teaches you how to, how to respect.
Yeah. So
listen.
what are the life skills, Malek, that music can teach?
Teamwork.
Right.
For example, if you look at an orchestra, every member of the orchestra is performing a different line. Sometimes it's like dissonance, but they're all harmonious. You have the conductor. Everybody is listening to each other. If they are not listening to each other, they're not going to be on the beat. Rumi said, "Wherever you stand, be the soul of that place." Your soul. At the end of the day, when you go to a concert, you don't see music. You see the musician. But music is in the air. It transcends all barriers, geographics, geopolitics, you name it. It goes straight to the heart without anybody's permission. To me, it's the epic of freedom. And that's why it's so important. Cultural diplomacy. I mean, how do you build bridges between nations? Art, sports. The entire world is going to come and unite under sports and music. So please, it is our duty to collaborate and bring the arts and music to the classrooms so we can bring the soul back to teachers, to students, so we can have that symphony for peace that we are all a member of.
Well, okay, so that's from an artistic point of view. Kathleen, what are the life skills that teaching social justice issues can teach a person or a child?
Well, and I agree that we can use art and music to do that.
Yeah.
It's about opportunity. It's about respect. Too many of young people, principally social media, but also the lack of community, I think, has undermined that sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. And so it is essential in any school, and the United States is particularly strange on this subject, but we are so concerned about getting the wrong values that we teach no values at all. And that is part of the lapse in education. But it's not just the United States, so many other countries. Or that set of values that they teach are insular and inward-looking and focused on themselves or a particular issue. And so broadening education is to be truly global and building that empathy, building global citizenship. All of those things are looked upon in many countries with distrust and concern. And so one of the elements of what we're concerned about, and particularly in the subject of climate change, which is unavoidable, it will hurt and help all of us, is that we need to build that sense of community, but not just in our schools, our neighborhoods, our state, our national government, but with the world at large. And I think that's the only way we're going to solve climate change and build more empathetic, loving, human people.
Nadia, final word to you from I know you're on your way to being a doctor now, but from a sports point of view, what are the life skills that sports can teach?
I think, very similar, Malek was explaining. Obviously, unity is a big part because you cannot win anything if you're trying to do things solo, so you have to be able to work together. I think also it teaches you how to understand each other, and most foremost, the most important part is probably respect, because you have so many different characters on the field that are your teammates. For you to be able to achieve your goals, you have to respect and understand them. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere. And that's the biggest thing I think that sports, teachers taught me, to be honest. And definitely something that you could also use in education.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Such an inspiring conversation, really, that reminds us of the future and the fate of the planet is in fact in our hands and in everybody's hands. And we can start with our young people and their education, as you've been hearing. Thank you so much. Nadia, Kathleen, you can now return to your seats. We appreciate your time with us. Thank you. This way. Nadia, Kathleen, Malek, I'll just ask you to stay right there. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Malek, we're very privileged to have you perform for us today, and you're going to perform your original music. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I played from the bottom of my heart. One request before you leave. Be kind. Thank you.